Namaste children. In last class what we have studied, once again repeating Kepler's laws of planetary motion. The first law of planetary motion is also known as law of orbits. This states that every planet moves around the sun in elliptical orbit with the sun at one of the foci of the elliptical orbit. Elliptical orbits will have two foci, F1 and F2. The second law is also known as law of areas. The line joining the planet to the sun sweeps over equal areas in equal intervals of time. Suppose if we have taken in this figure two triangles, that is triangle CSD and triangle ASB. The area of triangle SAB or ASB is equal to the area of SCD or CSD. Second law tells us that a planet does not move with constant speed around the sun. It speeds up while approaching the nearest point called perigee and slows down while approaching the farthest point called apogee. Therefore, distance covered on the orbit within the given interval of time at perigee is greater than that of apogee, such that areas swept are equal. Third law of planetary motion is also known as law of periods. The square of the time period of revolution of a planet around the sun is directly proportional to the cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun. The law is mathematically expressed as t square is directly proportional to r cube, or t square is equals to kr cube, where k is proportionality constant. Though Kepler gave the laws of planetary motion, he could not give the theory to explain the motion of planets. Only Newton explained that the cause of the motion of the planets is gravitational force which the sun exerts on them. So Newton used Kepler's third law to develop the law of universal gravitation. In the second part of Newton's law of gravitation, F is directly proportional to 1 by r square, which is also known as inverse square law. He deduced this inverse square law from Kepler's third law of planetary motion, that is law of periods. The relation between Newton's second and third laws and gravitation. According to Newton's third law and universal law of gravitation, every object attracts every other object with gravitational force. These forces are equal and opposite. Therefore, both the objects must be moving towards each other due to force. However, due to very weak nature of force, the normal sized bodies are not seen moving towards each other. What happens when a ball is dropped from a certain height from the ground? Ball is seen falling towards the earth, but the earth is not seen jumping towards the ball. Why? What is the reason? Let capital M and small m be the masses of earth and the ball respectively, and capital A and small a be the acceleration of the earth and the ball respectively. So, acceleration of earth capital A is equals to F by capital M, and acceleration of the ball small a is equals to F by small m. For the given force F, the ball experiences larger acceleration due to smaller mass, but the earth experiences negligibly small acceleration due to larger mass. According to Kepler's third law of planetary motion, that is law of periods, T square is directly proportional to R cube, or T square is equals to KR cube, where K is constant proportionality. From this, Newton deduced his inverse square law, that is the second part of universal gravitational force. In inverse square law, that is F is directly proportional to 1 by R square. Newton assumed that a planet revolves around the sun in a circular path of radius r. Let v be the orbital velocity of the earth. Now, when a body moves in a circular path of radius r with a velocity v, it experiences an acceleration a, which is equivalent to v square by r, which is also known as centripetal acceleration. From Newton's second law, F is equals to ma. So, by substituting the acceleration, that is centripetal acceleration, in this equation, F is equals to mv square by r. A is equals to v square by r. Let t be the time taken by the earth to complete one revolution around the sun. Then v is equal to distance covered by time. Since the planets are moving in circular orbits, v is equals to 2 pi r by t. So F is equals to m into, by substituting v value, v square value, v is equals to 2 pi r by t, v square is equals to 4 pi r square by t square. So 4 pi r square by t square into m by 1 r. So r and r gets cancelled. We will be getting F is equals to 4 pi r square mr by t square. According to Kepler's third law, t square is equals to kr cube. By substituting in the above equation the value of t square, we will be getting 4 pi square mr by kr cube. That implies 4 pi r square m by kr square. Since 4 pi r square m by k is a constant for an object, F is, by removing the constant, F is directly proportional to 1 by r square. This fact is valid for all the particles or objects in the universe. This is called as Newton's inverse square law, the second part of universal law of gravitation, or Newton's law of gravitation. Once again, according to Newton's universal law of gravitation, every body in the universe attracts every other body with a force which is directly proportional to the product of their masses and is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. The direction of force is along the line joining the centers of the two bodies. Let the two bodies A and B of masses m1 and m2 are placed at a distance of r from each other. Let F be the force of attraction between the bodies. Then the force of attraction is directly proportional to the product of their masses, that is, F is directly proportional to m1 m2, and the force of attraction is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them, that is, F is directly proportional to 1 by r square, which is nothing but Newton's inverse square law, which is deduced from Kepler's third law of planetary motion, that is law of periods. Two above equations, F is directly proportional to m1 m2 by r square, or F is equals to g m1 m2 by r square, where g is a constant called universal gravitational constant. It is the weakest force in nature. It is only attractive force. It is a mutual force. It is a central force. It is mass and distance dependent. It obeys inverse square law. It is a long range force. That is, it decreases with the distance as per inverse square law and becomes zero only at infinite distance, like electrostatic and magnetic force. It does not depend upon the medium between the interacting bodies. For universal gravitational constant, G is equals to Fr square by m1 m2. The value of universal gravitational constant G is 6.67 into 10 to the power of 11 Newton meter square per kg square. The value of G does not depend upon the medium between the two bodies. The value is same throughout the universe and hence it is called as universal gravitational constant. It is different from acceleration due to gravity and it is equivalent to F when this force is acting in between the bodies of masses 1 kg are separated by 1 meter distance from each other. So therefore, universal gravitational constant G is numerically equal to the force of gravitation which exists between the two bodies of unit masses kept at a unit distance from each other. What do you mean by free fall? When a body falls from a height towards the earth only under the influence of the gravitational force with no other forces acting on it, then the body is said to have a free fall. Suppose an object dropped from some height always falls towards the earth. If a feather and a stone are dropped from the top of a tower, it is observed falls onto the ground much later than the stone. So, it was thought that objects of different masses dropped from the same height take different times to reach the ground. However, Galileo dropped 3 iron balls of different masses simultaneously from the top of the tower, and he found that all the 3 balls reached the earth's surface at the same time. Then explained that the feather is suffered much air resistance during fall because of its larger area. Due to this opposing force or drag, feather takes longer time to reach the ground than the stone. He further explained that if air resistance is eliminated, both feather and stone will reach the ground simultaneously. The body having a free fall is called a freely falling body. And he proved that the acceleration of an object falling freely towards the earth does not depend on the mass of the object. Experimental verification was done by Robert Boyle just after the death of the Galileo. Robert Boyle used his newly invented vacuum pump to evacuate the air from a longer jar containing a lead bullet and a feather. Then he inverted the jar and found that both the bullet and the feather reached the bottom of the jar at the same time. The feather and the coin fall with the same acceleration and reach the ground at the same time. So, whenever a body falls from a height towards the earth, only under the influence of the gravitational force is called as free fall, and the body having a free fall is called as freely falling body. Then he concluded that the bodies of different masses dropped simultaneously from the same height hit the ground at the same time if air resistance is neglected. Since this acceleration is produced by the gravitational force of the earth and hence it is known as acceleration due to the gravitational force of the earth or acceleration due to gravity. If air resistance is neglected on the bodies which are falling down will experiences only one force acting on them, that is the force of gravitation of the earth. This force of gravitation of the earth is constant, hence produces a constant acceleration in the body. During free fall, only gravity acts on the object. Acceleration due to gravity is defined as the uniform acceleration produced in a freely falling body due to the gravitational force of the earth, and it is designated by small g. Acceleration due to gravity is constant, which is equivalent to 9.8 meters per second square or 980 centimeter per second square. Suppose a body of mass m is placed on the earth of mass capital M and radius capital R. According to Newton's universal law of gravitation, force exerted by the earth on the body is given by F is equals to G, the product of masses of the two objects, that is the earth and the body mm, by the radius separated these two objects is r square. So this force exerted by the earth produces an acceleration on the body. Therefore F is equals to mg. G is acceleration due to gravity. From the two equations, by equalizing F, mg is equals to g mm by r square, or small g is equals to gm by r square. Acceleration due to gravity on the earth is calculated as mass of the earth is 6 into 10 to the power of 24 kg and radius of earth is 6.4 into 10 to the power of 6 meters. Gravitational constant is 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. According to the equation G is equals to Gm by r square, by substituting the values, that is 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11 into 6.10 to the power of 24 kg by 6.4 into 10 to the power of 6 whole square, and by simplifying we get G is equals to 9.8 meters per second square. For simplified calculation, we can take G as 10 meters per second square. Acceleration due to gravity, will it be variated? If it is variates, with what factors it is variating? The first is acceleration due to gravity decreases with altitude. That is, as we go at a height from the earth's surface, what happens to the acceleration due to gravity? Suppose G is equals to Gm by r square. G dash, that is at a height, acceleration due to gravity is equals to Gm by r plus the height is h, r plus h whole square. Acceleration due to gravity decreases with the depth also. Suppose G is equals to Gm by r square, G dash, that is at a depth, m dash by r minus h whole square. Acceleration due to gravity is greater at the poles and less at the equator. G Gp, that is gravitational force at poles, is equals to Gm by R, Rp square, whereas G at the equator, that is equals to Gm by Re square. Earth is slightly flattened at the poles and bulging at the equator. The radius of the Earth at the poles is 21 kilometers less than that at the equator. So, Rp is less than Re. Therefore, from the above equations, G and M being same and G is inversely proportional to the square of the radius, gravitational force at poles is greater than the gravitational force at the equator. For example, by calculating using the above equation, the gravitational force at poles is equals to 9.823 meters per second square, whereas at the equator is equals to 9.789 meters per second square, and the average value of G is equals to 9.8 meters per second square. Now, in the first lesson, we have seen equations of motion when the object is moving in linear path, that is in straight line. Now, these equations will be changed. If the object is moving in vertical motion, that is under the influence of gravity, let a body be thrown vertically downward with initial velocity small u. Let the final velocity of the body after time t be v. Let h be the height, vertical distance covered by the body, and g be the acceleration due to gravity. Then the equations of motion are v is equals to u plus gt and h is equals to ut plus half gt square and v square is equals to u square plus 2gh. When a body is dropped freely, then the equations of motion will be changed, since u is equals to 0, v is equals to gt, h is equals to half gt square, v square is equals to 2gh. When a body is thrown vertically upwards, that is against to the gravitational force, then the equations of motion will be changed as v is equals to u minus gt, h is equals to ut minus half gt square, and v square is equals to u square minus 2gh. And the Cartesian sign convention, u value, v value, g value as well as h value will be taken as minus. When a body is freely falling, u will become 0 and v, g and h will be taken as negative. When a body is thrown vertically upwards, then according to the Cartesian sign convention, u, v and h will be in positive, whereas g will be negative. These are all called as Cartesian sign convention. Sign conventions for vertical motion. The physical quantities having vertically upward motion are assigned positive values. On the other hand, the physical quantities having vertically downward motion are assigned negative values. Acceleration due to gravity always acts in the downward direction and hence taken as negative. G always to be taken as negative for the problems while calculating. When a body is dropped freely, its initial velocity u will become 0. When a body is thrown vertically upwards, its final velocity becomes 0 at the maximum height. The time taken by a body to rise to the highest point is equal to the time taken by the body to fall from the same height. These are some of the tips to solve the numerical problems.